Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fueled by Progress, hosted by me, Mark Joseph Szymanski. Today, we have a great guest, and it is Izaz Ahmed. I wanted to jump into this, and I kind of screwed it up there. I wanted to jump in with the ceremonial Toronto, the new slang that I've learned from Toronto. So let me go back and say, reason fam, you're blessed.
Oh, what are you saying, fam?
Yeah. So
You said Toronto. It's Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
What is it?
You don't say the second T.
I don't. You don't say Toronto.
Toronto.
Toronto. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Ah.
There we go. What are you saying? Yeah. So anyway, the aside there is that I have obviously poorly learned some Toronto slang,
No, you're doing all right.
yeah, and it's a work in progress. But regardless, though, thank you, Ism, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, I got you, fam.
Yeah. So brief kind of context, and then I'll let Ism share some of his story. Is I don't remember what episode number it was. It might have been like 50 or so. We had Ism's brother, Burhan, on the show. So this is kind of like a little family inception type thing here.
Sequel.
Yeah, we're bringing it all together. So there might be some kind of like stories that are like intermingled and everything like that. But Ism, you are a man of many facets and talents here. So let me kick it over to you and just kind of like tell your like initial context and backstory of like how you've gotten to this point, and we'll dive into a bunch of different things.
All right. So a long time ago, two people loved each other very much. No, I'm playing. So I was born in New York, Queens, New York, in December 15, 1998. So you call me Izam. Everyone calls me Izam. That's my nickname.
Yeah,
Real name is Izaz.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my parents named me. Mm-hmm. But my family calls me Azam, which is my nickname for my family.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that part, how my name became Izam as well. But
Yeah.
born in New York, lived there for about 4 years, moved to Canada, Toronto, right outside Toronto, and lived there for 10 years. So from about 04 to 2014. And when we first moved to Canada, like literally our first morning there, me and my brother went outside, and our neighbors came outside too, like just randomly. They were outside. And crazy thing is, our neighbor's name was Burhan as well. But we just said hi to each other, and they're like, "Hey, what's your name?" And first I said my nickname. I'm like Azam, and then his brother came outside, whose name was Luqman. And he asked me what my name was, and I said Izaz. And then Burhan, the other Burhan, goes like, "Wait, didn't you say something else before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I said Azam before." And then they're like, "Well, now you said Izaz." And I tried explaining it to them. They're like, "Well, if we combine it, it becomes Ism, so we'll just call you Ism." And I'm like, "Okay." I was like 5 years old, maybe just turning 5 at that point too. So that's how I became Ism.
Interesting.
But yeah, so grew up in Canada, 10 years there. Then 2014, family moved down to Pittsburgh. Wasn't my choice, but I was dragged down here as well.
Yeah.
It's not too bad of a city.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I lived in Pittsburgh for about 6 years. Last year, though, in 2019, in August, my family moved down to Florida, and I moved with them for all of like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, screw that. I don't like Florida. It's too hot. So I'm in the Army Reserve. So I got a full-time gig to be a recruiter back in Pittsburgh. So I decided to pack up, leave Florida, and came back out here.
Nice.
Been here since December 2019.
Nice. Yeah.
That was my birthday present. Came on my birthday.
Just came back. Yeah. So obviously, and in that story too, like our relationship started, I think, at the same time, like sort of the same thing. I think I met you and Burhan probably down at North Hills.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So
same way we met, the same day and everything.
And I remember back on when me and B were discussing this, I literally had no idea of the timeline. It was basically right after you guys got back here, I'm pretty sure, or right as you moved here, because you guys started playing hockey and started getting into all that, and like it was sometime around what I guess that's 14. Was that 2014?
Yeah, that had to be 2014, near the end of 2014, because we started playing a few months after we got here. He found like North Hills.
Yeah.
They called it Dexter.
Yeah.
And then Doug Sable like kind of just put him on his team.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. Doug Sable.
R.I.P. Doug Sable. Yep.
But yeah, so we played a couple seasons with Doug's team, and I think when that team broke apart, #hockey was a team with like all those guys that I think they were friends from college or whatnot, and we kind of just started playing with them because we needed a team. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how you got through that team. Were you just randomly signing up there too and got thrown on the team?
I think I met them. I think I met them somehow around here because I knew some of them, and then I met the rest of the group, and like I was playing at Banksville or something like that, and then somehow made my way up to Dexter, and then the rest is history from there. I guess that's how we all kind of met, and then we've gotten to this point.
I mean, the whole team sucked except you and my brother. So I think that's how you guys became friends, was because you guys were on the same line the whole time. So
Yeah, it's I don't know. It was an interesting time. It was definitely definitely learned a lot. I mean, I'm trying to think back again to like where I was as, a person and just kind of like maturing and everything like that. I don't think I had that many friends that I was hanging out with like regularly. So once we all got together with hockey and stuff like that, it was kind of cool to have, a friend group and everything like that. And then as you just continue to be around that sport a lot, it's fun. But,
yeah, you guys definitely play a lot more than me though.
yeah. So like maybe we touch on that real quick. So I know you're playing a lot earlier on, like in that timeline there from 2014 now. Played a little bit more now, but like there's a big gap there, right? So maybe like start to take us through like like did you go straight to the military after high school, or how did that all like work?
Yeah, so I graduated high school, but I enlisted in the Army Reserve, which is part-time. So I enlisted in that in December 2015, like 2 days after my birthday. So December 17, 2015, I enlisted, but I was still a senior in high school, so I didn't ship out until August. I think I left like August 21st in 2016. And then from August, or you could say September, all the way through March, I was at training. So I joined as a 42 Alpha. It's a human resources specialist. So it's all like paperwork, boring stuff, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Went to basic training. It's called AIT, Advanced Individual Training. And then an additional postal course, all at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Finished that. March 4th, I came home, 2017. And then like 16 days after I came home, I went to South Korea for a month, which was lit. I love South Korea. I want to go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went there for a month for it's like a joint training exercise called Exercise Key Resolve. Did that, came back at the end of April, and kind of just started doing my own thing. I started CCAC online. Then I started working. I went to Canada for a few months and just doing my thing with the Army.
Yeah.
What year are we in? 2017 still. So take it back or leap forward, I'd say, to October 2017, where I went to Camp Parks, California, which is where I went for a leadership course called Basic Leaders Course. And you need that course to get promoted to the rank of sergeant. So I did that course in October, finished in November, came back home, was home for all of like a month and a half. And then January 2nd, 2018, my unit got ready to go to Kuwait. So I went there. First went to Texas for a month. That's what we do. It's called pre-mobilization. And you got to do some trainings, got to go through some medical stuff. Takes about a month, and then you go to Kuwait. So that's where I was the whole time for my deployment. Like 9 months in Kuwait. Don't really call it a deployment. It's like a vacation. I went jet skiing in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
Went to the mall over there and everything. And I came back home from there and on Halloween 2018. So ever since then, I've been in the U.S. Did a few months more in the reserve. So we're at 2018. Skip over to 2019 now. In May, I went to Indiana for another training exercise thing. Did that for a month, came back home. And that's when my family got ready to move. So it was about June, July timeframe where my family moved to Florida. We got there August 1st, 2019. And that's when I'm like, I don't like it here. So I got in touch with someone I know who got me a full-time offer to be a full-time recruiter back in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, I was trying to get Buffalo first to be close to the border so I could go to Canada. But I was like, I'll settle for Pittsburgh if you can't get that. So he gave me Pittsburgh. So I came back up here December 2019, and I've been here since.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's just a quick recap about what I've been doing from 2014 to now.
Yeah, definitely. We can dive into more of that. My first question is because, I've talked to some, members of like the military as well, like on the show and just kind of people that have been all over in that sort of a sense. And, my first question is specifically about that. What was your motivation to go into the Army, into the military, and to want to do that? What was your your biggest motivation for that?
So I always wanted to join like the military, but when I was in Canada, like when you're in high school over there, they kind of make you do career exploration stuff. And it's like a whole assignment. You got to do what you want to do when you graduate and stuff. So for that assignment, I actually said that I wanted to either like be a doctor or go join the Army as a medical officer, which is a doctor anyways. But I had a whole plan set up for that. Then my family moved, and I'm like, well, shit, there goes my plan. So I'm like, I was going to join the Army up there anyway, so might as well join down here. I joined the reserve because nobody in my family's been in the military before. So I was like the first person. I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be like, so I'll do something part-time where I still get to stay home. But I learned pretty fast that I really actually love being in the Army. So I started doing as much as I can to get more active duty time in, because while you're in the reserve, you could get gigs to do active duty stuff. So like the deployment was one, going to South Korea was another, and just jumping on top of any training opportunities I could get. I just got on top of that and did all those. But I mean, that was my main motivation, was just because I wanted to serve. But like secondary stuff, like the benefits, college benefits, health benefits, and all that stuff, it's really good. For someone young starting out, people don't think about that stuff, but my parents kind of always wanted us to think about the future. So I was thinking, like, as I get older, I'm going to need that stuff for myself rather than being under my parents. So the Army kind of helps you make your own way.
What do you think is like you mentioned in there, like you had a motivation for it. You joined the reserves just to like make sure that, like not to jump all the way in, I guess, right? What were some of the things that once you got in there that you really enjoyed? Like kind of break that down. Like what are some things about the Army that do you think maybe aligns with your personality type, or like just the things that like, what's your favorite part about it? Because like, I think there's a lot of misconception here, myself included. Like I have no idea. I know you're going and you're doing different training exercises and you're getting deployed and stuff, but what is it actually like? What's the actual?
So I'll say definitely not my job in the Army.
Yeah.
The way I got recruited is a crazy story as well, but my recruiter didn't lie to me. He gave me everything straight up. I just kind of ended up not scoring high enough for the job I wanted on the written test. So I wanted to be a combat medic. I missed that by 4 points. And I had the option to not join. I could have just waited a month, retaken the test, and then if I scored higher, I could join as a medic. But I'm like, nah, screw that. I wanted to join the Army, so I might as well get my time started now. So that's what I did. I just joined as a human resources specialist because it came with the highest college benefits and stuff. Because there's a guaranteed benefits and then there's additional incentives. If you score high enough on the test, you unlock that portion. I know that now as a recruiter, but I pretty much scored high enough to get the bonuses that were, available at the time. So I got some good like student loan repayment bonuses and other GI Bill stuff, and I haven't used any of that yet because I've been like having my education paid for through tuition assistance and other benefits that we get. But so definitely not my job. My job's boring, but I've gone to like training such as combat lifesaver course, which is pretty much just like first responder type stuff in a combat scenario. So before a medic could get to somebody, you have your combat lifesavers that can start applying care right away. So I still got that sort of medical training, you could say, to be able to do what I want to. Because when you're in the Army, you could always switch your jobs. So my plan was to switch my job into a medic afterwards, but get whatever training I can in that route. So that was one thing I really loved. Thing I enjoyed the most was definitely basic training, though. Basic training was 8 weeks long. When I went, it's 10 weeks now. But when I went, it was 8 weeks long. I went to Fort Jackson. People call it relaxing Jackson, but I promise it wasn't relaxing at all. It was definitely tough. But we went out to the field a few times. So you do most of your training like outdoors anyways, but there's certain points in basic training where you actually like go into the middle of the forest and you dig holes and you sleep in those holes and all that stuff.
What the hell?
Yeah. So like we did all that. We were in the field. They have like lanes that you go through over there as well, like reacting to fire or breaking contact, stuff like that. Just kind of testing your combat, everything you've learned for combat stuff. So testing your combat abilities, I guess you could call it. That was my favorite part so far, being in the Army. Second favorite was going to South Korea, because in South Korea, all we were doing was our human resources stuff. And we were actually in processing people that were coming in for that training exercise. So I was working at the airport for 2 weeks. Just everyone in the military coming in had to kind of check in with us. And then we put them on shuttles and kind of sent them off to whatever base they were supposed to be at. So I did that for 2 weeks. And then the second 2 weeks I spent in the field. So we went all the way to the south part of South Korea. And we were sleeping in tents and stuff, which was a fun experience. Did all that. The initial 2 weeks, though, we got to explore the city. We were right outside, pretty close to Seoul, South Korea, which is like the biggest city in South Korea, I guess. There's a city right outside our base called Itaewon, or like a district, I guess you could call it. And it's like just lined with restaurants and shops and like third-party vendors and stuff. So we got to experience the South Korean culture pretty deep. After that, third favorite thing was definitely Kuwait. I love going overseas, so I try getting on any chance I can get to go overseas. So I went to Kuwait, and my goal in Kuwait was to try to go to like Iraq or Afghanistan or something like that from there, but we didn't have any missions for my unit that would go there, so I didn't get the chance to do that. But while I was in Kuwait, I like took the opportunity to go explore Kuwait City, go around their little like marketplaces. They call them bazaars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Bought some fake Ray-Bans. Went jet skiing in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
The best thing about it though, the malls over there, they were crazy. There's one mall called, I think they called it the 360 Mall,
Mm-hmm.
and it's bigger than any mall I've ever seen before. And it's like literally a huge 360, like a circle.
Yeah.
And it's unreal. It's like multiple floors. It's got like a movie theater in there that's like super huge. It's got like a bunch of like Gucci, Louis, all those like high end shops and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, experiencing all that culture was dope.
Interesting. Yeah. That's again, I go back to the perspective thing, and I think it's like, okay, so you're on this, this journey and stuff like that. And how does it work? Kind of break it down for me. Do you have like a group of people, like people in your unit that are always in your unit? Like how does that work?
Yeah, in the reserve, you basically enlist into a position in a local unit somewhere. So my unit was right off the Highland Park Bridge. It's the 444 HR company. It's a postal unit.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get promoted out of that unit once you make your NCO ranks, which is your non-commissioned officers. But typically, because they have so many vacancies, you just stay in that unit for most of your career.
Mm-hmm.
You get to know the people there. And the way the deployments work is they kind of announce it at least a year and a half out that, hey, we have a deployment coming up around this time frame. And they try to ask for volunteers first. So obviously I volunteered. I'm like, hell yeah, put me on that roster.
Yeah.
And, if they fill it up with volunteers, typically like my team only had about 17 people go, and the unit has over a couple hundred people in it. So, finding 17 volunteers from that's pretty easy. Mm-hmm. But they fill up the roster with volunteers. If they don't have enough, they start, pulling people like, all right, you got to go. It is the Army, so you signed up for it. We were all volunteers though. And then you start training for your deployment, which is during your part-time duty, which is 1 week in a month and 2 weeks in the summer. You kind of just start preparing for that. And then closer to the deployment, you spend about 2 weeks just showing up to your unit. They give you orders, you get paid for it all. And you do more training, online stuff, making sure all your equipment's good to go and everything. And then you do what's called pre-mob, which is doing all your medical stuff. And they evaluate your training at Fort Bliss, Texas, or Fort Hood, or wherever your pre-mob site is. Mm-hmm. We went to Fort Bliss, Texas. And after that, you go overseas, do your mission. Ours was pretty simple. We were doing administrative operations, so we weren't even doing anything hectic. Mm-hmm. I was chilling most of the time there, I'll be honest with you. Using your taxpayer dollars. Yeah. Getting paid off that. Tax-free too. But yeah, so you go, you do your tour, 9 months about roughly. Then you come back to your DMOP site, which for us was Fort Bliss again. And you go, they make sure you're medically cleared, nothing happened to you while you were there. If something did happen, they take care of it. They kind of provide you with all the necessary medical care that you need, or they set you up. So like, say we actually did get hurt out there and we required some sort of surgery or something like that. Mm-hmm. They set all that up. They take care of you before they send you home. And then after that, because we're in the reserves, once we're done with demo, we just go home, fly home on a regular airplane, go to the airport, fly home, and then we get 3 months off from the reserves because for some reason that's how it works. And after 3 months, you just start reporting to your unit again, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. Mm-hmm. Pretty easy. Yeah.
And that's like the reserve thing. It's like you just kind of, you go on missions or, you at certain times, like, and you said mostly volunteered first at least.
Yeah. Volunteers first. Yeah. You could call them missions. There's more logistics involved to it. Yeah. Like certain units are in like a ready for status where they've been designated as your unit has to be green at all time for like this period of time, typically 3 years. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have rotating platoons going out overseas and stuff. Mm-hmm. So my unit was actually an RFX unit for a bit. We had people going to Kuwait, Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. We even had a few in Iraq, Poland, Lithuania, I think Bosnia. So it wasn't only the Middle East, it was Europe as well, Asia as well. So
gotcha. So me being somebody that's not familiar with this, obviously we've talked about this before and I kind of know some of the details, but like as somebody that like enlists in the Army and, is in some sort of position, we've talked about now that you're mainly a recruiter and you're doing like HR stuff and you've gone overseas and you've done all that sort of stuff. Like to go back to when you first signed up, you said combat medic. Does that literally mean that you would be out like what is that? What is that position? Like I imagine that's much different.
All right, so the way the Army Reserve works is there's no frontline positions in the Army Reserve. So that doesn't necessarily mean you can't be in combat because, if you're in Afghanistan and you're out on patrol and you get shot at, it doesn't matter if you're active duty or reserve, you're shooting back. Right? Yeah. Even if you're an American, you get shot at, I hope you shoot back. Like, carry a gun on you at all times. Yeah. I don't know what's scary, but combat medics are basically they're more like nurses. You could kind of relate them to nurses because they don't always go out into combat. There's actually hospitals on base, and their MOS code is 68 whiskey. So anyone can Google that and search up exactly what they do. But I haven't performed the job myself, so I don't want to give inaccurate information. But from what I know, they pretty much do the functions of a nurse in like a hospital, either on base or like a field hospital or something. So they could provide you with just regular emergency care, like when you go to an ER, or they can be like when you're getting shots or something like that, they'll administer the shots or draw blood or whatever. But when in a combat situation, say that you're a combat medic and you're assigned to an infantry unit, and like you're the medic for that unit or for that platoon, then you're going to train with the infantry. You're going to go out with the infantry. Now that's on the active duty side. So they'll go out with the infantry, and there's a casualty. They're going to be they're typically the ones that take care of that casualty and try to save their life, I guess.
Yeah, like literally on a battlefield or something like that, like out on
patrol or something. Yeah. There's no more battlefields. Like
Well, I mean, how's that? Is it like an actual? If there was an actual war, I guess there would be like a battlefield. Like I'm totally.
I mean, so when people say battlefield, I kind of think of it like you think about the Civil War where they kind of met in an open field and shot one round at a time or whatever. That's not how the Civil War went though. But it's not like a meetup point or something like that. It's literally urban warfare now. So like when you see the movies where they're patrolling cities and stuff like that, that's what it is. And it's a lot of guerrilla warfare now because you don't know who the enemy is because they don't wear a standard uniform.
Right.
If we were at war with another nation, it might be a little easier to identify who the enemy is because they wear uniforms. But we're not at war with a nation. We're at war with the ideology. So at least that's the way I see it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of hard to know who the enemy is when you can't identify them. So it's more guerrilla warfare, kind of like Vietnam was. So there's not really a battlefield. There's cities in Iraq and Afghanistan that they patrol to find terrorists and kill or capture them.
Yeah. And this is like ongoing, like all the time for the most part?
For the most part, I mean, I've never been in the infantry, never been in combat, so I don't know exactly how the details of it work.
When you went to like Kuwait, you went to South Korea, there was none of that going on?
Oh, no, in Kuwait, it was lit. So we land there. The people in Afghanistan and Iraq are probably pissed off for everyone that gets to go to Kuwait because we land there and we literally give our weapons to our armor or unit armor and put it in a vault. We don't wear body armor. We just wear a regular uniform.
Wow.
And like you could wear your regular patrol cap or you could get like a bucket hat almost. You look fly, you wear that. And we just like work on base, whatever. There's like no mortars, no indirect fire. There's no terrorists. There's no enemies in Kuwait. So we could literally go out into the city on the weekends, and clothes like this and just travel and have fun. Now the people in Iraq and Afghanistan, they can't obviously do that because in Iraq and Afghanistan they're taking indirect fire, they're taking mortars. It's a lot more serious over there. So Kuwait's a vacation. That's why I said I don't really call it deployment. I had fun out there.
I gotcha. So again though, at Kuwait, like there's a base there, there's a US Army base, and you like work on just different things. Like what is maybe like kind of dive into more of like the purpose of that base there? Is it just kind of like...
So the bases in like Kuwait, Qatar, Egypt, the places where there's not combat at all, they're mainly for support for the combat elements. I'll give you an example of what our mission was. Our mission was running the theater gateway, and the theater is basically the whole area around like the Middle East, you could call it. Everyone that comes in to the CENTCOM AOR is gonna come through the theater gateway. They come through, they get their ID scanned in, and they're kind of checked in to the theater. And that way we have track of everyone that's all over the CENTCOM AOR. Now from there, they fly out to wherever they're supposed to be at. So essentially what my unit was doing was providing administrative support to the soldiers running the theater gateway. That makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
you've told me about that before. It's
personally,
it's the gateway, like you said.
Yeah, personally, what I did was I was the HR, I guess you could call it the orderly room specialist or NCO after I got promoted, and I processed all the personnel actions. I kept personnel accountability for the soldiers assigned under us. We had about, I think, like 100 and maybe 160 at one point assigned to our unit. I processed awards, promotions, watched a lot of Futurama, all the Marvel movies. But yeah, it was really easy. Like if we had like an award ceremony, I kind of helped coordinate that, host that a little bit, and yeah, life was good over there. I was chilling.
Can you describe to me, a very curious question here, can you describe to me what the base in Kuwait is like?
Yeah.
How big is it? Like, is it, and like,
It's
and what's it like? Just is it a big
let's
bunch
see.
of buildings, or?
If I was to say how big it was, maybe about total of no more than like a 5 mile radius.
Okay.
Fit inside the base. But yeah, they had roads there, like paved roads, real roads on base. It was very sandy because we're in the desert.
Yeah.
It was intense. It was buildings. So we had barracks. The way the barracks were they were called PCBs. I can't remember exactly what that stands for now, but think of a open warehouse, but it has AC and heating and all that stuff in it. So open warehouse, you just kind of line it down with wall lockers and bunk beds, and it's two to a kind of area. The rooms that we were staying in were kind of split by curtains, so everyone made their own curtains with bed sheets and stuff. But the walls for the rooms were made by the wall lockers. They're just huge metal lockers.
Yep.
And then you have about, I want to say like a 8x5 space to share with somebody else, and you split that right down the middle. Me and my roommate, we never kind of split our sections. We just kind of kept it open because we were in the same unit. We're cool with each other. I had like a desk with a TV and a PS4. I had my laptop there, had internet, Wi-Fi, so I used to play Fortnite with the boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was what the barracks were like. We had a cafeteria. The cafeteria was kind of just a bunch of, think of it as like trailers put together to make like a big open cafeteria. The food was really good though. We had foreign nationals that made the food. The food was really good in Kuwait. They had a gym, a solid structured gym, a USO that had like games and computers and like a small theater in there. They had a PX, which is our like on post like store. They had two PXs on base, and they actually had two gyms as well. So that was like zone 6.
Those different zones.
They have different zones. So zone 6 is typically where most of the people work and live. Zone 2, I think, was where you had the higher ups, like the generals and the colonels and like the sergeant major. They had actual apartment style barracks, which is, I was kind of jealous about that, but I wasn't high enough to get some nice accommodation like that.
Would you get that now? You're a sergeant now.
No, I'm just a sergeant. I'm an E5 sergeant. That was like for E9s and like 06 and above.
Okay.
So you had to be in the army for a while and have some decent rank.
I gotcha.
I'm no one. But yeah, so that was zone 2, I believe. Zone 1 had like a solid structure PX. It was like a mini mall almost. It had a barbershop, a PX, a couple food spots in there. And then they had like foreign nationals that set up kind of small vendor stalls. They would sell like suits or rugs or like stuff that Americans think you can't find in America, but you can. And it's really overpriced on base.
Yeah.
They even had like a nice little area in zone 6 as well for those kind of vendors as well. But if you're in the army, reserve, and you go overseas, don't buy anything on base. Just go off base. It's cheaper, I promise. Yeah, they try to rip you off on base because they think you're stupid. But I'm not stupid. I'm stupid, but not so stupid. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's like you could call it, it's like a little community almost. Yeah. So it's pretty chill.
And in that one specifically, so you said it's like a 5-mile radius. I'm trying to picture that. Is that like, how far is the base from like, I don't want to say like the rest of civilization, but like the main land of like the main portion cities of the area?
It just depends on which base you're on. The one I was on, it was called Camp Arifjan. It's maybe 15, 20 minutes away from a good chunk of the city. There's a base called Camp Buren, though, all the way north of Kuwait, right by the Iraq border. That base was isolated because the north of Kuwait is already all desert, and then you just drive in the middle of the desert, and you kind of just get on. Well, you don't get on base. There's checkpoints and stuff, but you kind of just hit a base, and then the base is obviously there's a perimeter set up. And all our bases, we have a nice perimeter set up, guard towers and everything. So it's like it's safe. Right. If like you think like the middle of the desert, can't anyone just go there? No, not anyone can just go there. There's watch and I maybe they have UAVs and stuff. I don't know. I never been on 3 kill streak before, so. But yeah, it's just depends on which base you're at. Some of the bases in like Iraq and Afghanistan might be like smack in the middle of what used to be a city or what used to be like a diplomatic area, but it got took over.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you've heard of Baghdad, Iraq, they have what's called the Baghdad Diplomatic Support Center. That's actually a Department of State base. It's not a Department of Defense base. And that's kind of like near the public. Again, it's secure because it's a embassy area and stuff like that. But it just depends where you are. Korea was right smack. Like you walk off base and you're in Itaewon, which is like this whole strip with all the shops and stuff. So over here we have like I've been to Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is fairly close. That one's 2 hours away from New York City, and you know what the like structure's like in New Jersey, New York. There's communities everywhere. What else? Fort Bliss was pretty close to El Paso. It is in El Paso, Texas, but it's pretty close to like communities and stuff. But yeah, a lot of the bases are built near either ghetto or super hillbilly areas because it's just cheaper that way. Yeah, government likes to save money.
I feel you. I've heard, so we've talked about this at another time, but to bring it up here because it's pertinent. Moving forward, like your plan with the Army and everything like that, or like, at least a tentative plan. I know that you've explored a couple different options. I'm not sure what you can't say or whatever like that, but like what is what do you have anything on your mind as far as moving forward?
Yeah, so right now I'm using my benefits to get my degree in Aerospace Science, doing that online. I plan on finishing my degree within the next year, and I'm still in the Army for at least 3 more years. So once I'm done with my degree, I'm going to kind of explore what I could do with that in the civilian world. But I also have plans on moving back to Canada as well. I just have a lot of options open to me. I could stay in the Army. I could stay as a recruiter. I could switch back to being a 42 Alpha, which is human resources, do that full time. Or I can go full active duty, change my job to something completely different, get trained in that, and do that for a few years if I want. So I have those options with the Army. With my degree, I can look into what's available to me through that. SpaceX is a pretty big company, so if I could get a job at SpaceX, that's very well paying. That might be pretty cool. Or just something in the aerospace field. I do aerospace science, not engineering, so I don't build rockets or anything. It's more of keeping stuff in orbit, launching stuff, and all that stuff.
It's so, like just the science and everything behind that, mathematics and stuff?
Pretty much, yeah. Not too much math. It's a lot more, you could say, physics, some chemistry, and like the class I'm taking right now is rocket propulsion, so it's specifically rockets.
Yeah. Are you enjoying that?
I love it, yeah. Yeah, I love space. Before I was doing biology, I hated that. I was doing that because when I was a child, my parents kind of conditioned me to believe that I had to be a doctor when I grew up. Yeah. And so I'm like, like, it's what my parents wanted me to do, so I'll start going that route. And then I realized I had to take Calc 1 and Calc 2. And I said, hell no, I'm not taking those classes. So I changed it to what I want to do. It's not like I didn't want to do biology. I did have an interest for the medical field as well. And I still do. I still want to be a medic and all that. But I like space a lot more, and it's more enjoyable to learn about. But yeah, so I have that available to me as well, something in that field. Or I can, move back to Canada, try joining the Army up there, see what the rules are like up there, or just do something completely different, or use my degree up there as well. That's kind of at the top of my list right now is moving back to Canada. I haven't made a solid decision on exactly what I want to do. So I just have 3 years to see. I have 3 years as a recruiter still. Yep. So save up as much as I can and make a decision closer to my contract end date.
Yeah, definitely a lot of options there. So yeah, I want to touch on something here because it's interesting to me. So the first question, I guess, I might know the slight bit of the answer here is it seems like you just said you want to move back to Canada. I imagine that's because you have family, friends there. That's like, and I think B talked about it. Like kind of there's like a community. Like,
yeah.
So is that one of your biggest reasons?
Yeah, I mean, being back home, I grew up there, so all my friends are there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a few friends here, not too many. I
Right.
didn't make any friends in high school, I say. Hockey, made
Yeah.
good friends there.
Right. Right.
And in the army, I've made good friends in the army.
Mm-hmm.
But moving back to Canada, I got all my childhood friends. I got my cousins up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of like living there a lot better
Mm-hmm.
than the U.S.
Yep.
The U.S. isn't bad,
Mm-hmm.
but Canada's better.
Yeah, I feel you. And so I want you to answer that question because I just want to hear the perspective on that. But the other thing too is that I'm interested in, so like you obviously were down here and you decided to join the army. And now like you'd go back to Canada and you would also, like you just said, you're considering joining the army up there depending on the rules and how it all works and everything like that. Is it more just about serving whoever, like wherever you're at, and not like a specific thing? You understand? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
so-
you're not like nationalist to a specific place. It's like you just want to serve wherever you're. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so it's service is just a big thing for me.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why it's just the way I think.
it's definitely admirable.
Um,
I'm just trying to unpack it though, because it's interesting. Because like,
So-
do you feel like you're an American or do you feel like you're Canadian? Do you feel like you're both? Like, how does that?
I mean,
I mean, obviously
citizenship
are
wise,
both.
no, citizenship wise, I'm American. I was never a Canadian citizen. I had a permanent residency up there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm American as a citizen. Now, I like to tell people I'm American as a citizen, but like in my heart, I'm Canadian.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a lot of Canadian values and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's, just poking fun and stuff.
Yeah.
As far as service goes and who I want to serve, definitely not like a corrupt regime type of deal. I
Right.
wouldn't join like a military like that or
Right.
a paramilitary group like that.
Mhm.
Don't necessarily serve a president.
Mhm.
President doesn't really do much for the military anyway.
Right.
It doesn't matter who's in office.
Yeah.
I'm not talking Trump, Obama,
Right. Yeah.
Biden,
Yeah, it's
whoever.
kind of like an
Yeah.
an off-topic type thing. It's like they're just kind of out there
Yeah,
leading, but they're not.
They're the commander in chief, but
Right.
there's a lot of checks and balances in the government to actually give them certain authorities and whatnot.
For sure.
So I didn't join for any of those kinds of reasons, and most people in the army don't. It's funny because as a recruiter, you have people tell you that, oh, Trump's president, I'm not going to join, or if Biden gets elected, I'm not going to join.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't have much to do with it.
yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I'll reach back out to them after the election and see if they're still interested or not.
Yeah.
They're not going to be. But as far as I just want to just be in the military because I feel like being in the military helps you make a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people might disagree with that. Some people might think it's completely evil or whatever. Some people might think the military doesn't do anything other than go fight for oil.
Mm-hmm.
If they were never in, they have no, they don't have the right to talk about it really.
Right.
Because I know people that have been in the infantry. I know people that have lost people, or I know people that have been in combat situations that they're not messed up in the head, but it has impacted how they developed over the years.
Yeah, PTSD and stuff.
So, and the people that I know that have been in the infantry, they definitely didn't go over there for oil or anything like that. I don't even know anyone that's actually fought to secure an oil field. But
yeah.
I mean, as far as being in the Canadian Army or the American Army, it's just being in the Army for me. It's something I've been doing for the past 5 years of my life, and just something I know.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's something I could do up there as well.
Yeah.
I like the Army up there too because you can grow your beard out. You can't grow your beard out here.
Really?
So I feel like that's a motivator for me to just, like, if I want to stay in the military,
Yeah.
go to Canada, join the military, and grow my beard out.
Yeah. Did you say that you know people in the Canadian Army?
Yeah, we have friends in Canada.
Yeah.
I have a good friend. He actually lived a few houses to the right of us when we lived in Canada, and he joined the Army Reserve up there. He joined the infantry. The Canadian Army Reserve does have combat positions, so he joined the infantry. There was another dude. I can't remember exactly what his job was. He was either military intelligence or he was the infantry as well. But yeah, I've talked to a couple guys in Canada that joined the army over there, and I'm in touch with them to see if they could get me more information on what the process would be like if I wanted to change over.
Yeah. How much different is it? Like, I mean, I know you mentioned a couple things there, but like, is it the same size? Like, do you still have like, do they do as many like,
Overseas?
overseas and stuff like that?
Definitely not. When
No.
I was in Kuwait, I mean, there's mostly American bases over there. There was a few allied nations with soldiers on base over there. Like, I'd say at one point there was like 10 people from New Zealand, a couple French soldiers, a few Germans. Maybe saw like 6 or 7 Canadians out there. It's not that many. So their operations is definitely a lot smaller. Their military is a lot smaller too because the population is smaller, and again, it's all volunteer force over there as well. Um, I'd say their funding is very different than like how the U.S. allocates their budget to the military, and their focus for their missions is a lot different too, because there's the global war on terrorism, which a lot of the allied nations are in support of that and everything. I'm pretty sure Canada is as well, but they're a lot more focused on humanitarian operations within Canada and securing Canada's borders and all that stuff too. So yeah, I don't think they go overseas as often. My boy, he hasn't been overseas yet. I think he said he was gonna go to Ukraine. I'm not sure if he actually went, but like I went to South Korea 16 days after I came home. Then I went to Kuwait within that same year. If I stayed in the reserve, I would have gone to Poland as well with the group that went to Poland. But I took this full-time position to go recruiting. But I mean, I don't know exactly how the dynamics of the Canadian Army are yet.
Yeah.
So when I get there, I would explore that and see if it's reasonable for me, or if I just don't want to be in the military at all. I'm looking into other options as well to kind of make my money work for me instead of working for the money.
Yeah, we should definitely touch on that because that's I think we have some of the similar ideas there, and we can kind of bounce a couple things back and forth. So if that would be the plan, and would you get before we touch on that, would you get like Canadian citizenship and do that? Like, would you have to do that? Do you think to kind of fit into the things that you're trying to do?
To join the army up there?
I mean, maybe to join the army. I guess to join the army, you'd have to.
I think you might have over here. If you have a dual citizenship, you have to drop your second citizenship and to join the military over here. So I'm not sure what Canada's rules are like. If I could join with just my permanent residency card, I might as well just do that. If I could get citizenship and have a dual citizenship, that might be more reasonable. But I mean, you get most of the same benefits with the PR card over there.
That would be pretty dope if you could be part of two armies, two nations armies, as opposed to just one. Not many people even do that. So, but obviously, like you touched on before, there's a lot of benefits from like being in the army and like having all this stuff. And I know you said you're still in the army for a certain amount of years, and we've talked about it like off camera and stuff like that about how those benefits ultimately add up and how it all works out. But let's switch over to that what you mentioned there about like making your money work for you and stuff like that. So I know that you have recently, probably I guess within the past like year or so, like tried to get more into investing and doing stuff like that. And then also I think you're in the midst of potentially a home purchase. I don't know where you're at on that and all that sort of stuff, but like walk me through sort of your plan on that sort of things where instead of working for it, like you said, you're kind of making your money work for you.
So I've been investing for a couple years now. My dad's a financial advisor, so I kind of got some ideas from him to invest the money that I made in Kuwait, because I came back with a good deal of money for a 19-year-old. And I wasn't going to be stupid with it and, buy like a Mercedes or something like that.
Right, yeah.
I know people that wasted the money on cars and things like that. But
you can buy more cars later if you invest now.
Yeah. But so I wanted to my money in the bank account wasn't doing anything for me. It was kind of just sitting there. I was swiping my card because I'm like, I have money in the bank account. And then I realized I'm kind of wasting this money on dumb stuff. Like, why do I need to go to Dunkin' Donuts and buy a bagel when I can just go to Aldi and buy a whole pack of bagels?
Right.
But I figured out I would put most of my money into an investment. So I did that, started investing in a few healthcare ETFs, financial ETFs, and more recently after the split, Tesla and Apple as well.
Yep.
Kind of looking to diversify my portfolio in that aspect. And those are all investments for the long run. I'm not doing it for like a year, 2 years. I'm doing it for like probably till I retire.
Yep.
And just letting that money grow, because the general trend of the market is always up. We had the COVID crash, you had the 08 housing crash, the Y2K stuff happened in the early 2000s.
Yep.
That brought the market down. But the general trend of the market, it's always going up. So if I don't need the money right now, it just makes sense to let it grow. So I'm looking into that. I'm investing some in that. I also started day trading, which I haven't been great at, but I've stayed resilient with it because I've always heard and I've read and all the research I've done with day trading. Your first year is always your worst year day trading. And after that, you start winning. You start winning better, I would say. And eventually, you could make a good living off of that as well. So I'm looking into doing that as well. I don't day trade stocks. It is stocks, but not exactly shares. I day trade options, which is slightly different. It's contracts that have 100 shares of each stock in it. And the contracts have a premium or a value that you buy it at. And when you trade it, you buy it and then you want the stock to go up. So the value of the contract goes up and then you sell it to make profit like that. But so I'm trading that. You mentioned the house that I'm looking into buying. I am looking at building equity by having a house.
Mm-hmm.
I found a nice house in Pittsburgh, in Brentwood, that I made an offer on. Offer was accepted, so I'm kind of going through the whole process of completing that purchase.
Nice.
The reason I did that though was because right now I'm renting, and the army gives me a monthly allowance to pay for housing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily pay for rent; it could be paid for mortgage as well. And I figured over the past year, I didn't necessarily waste, but I used upwards of 10 grand, put it towards a place that I'm never gonna own,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of, if you look at it in the wrong one, just burning your money away. I figured instead of doing that, I might as well put that money over the next 3 years towards something that I could own. And then, if I decide to get out of the army, I have a place to live in Pittsburgh, if I find a job here. Or I can get out, go to Canada and put this place on rent and just let my tenants pay my mortgage off for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, over time, the house grows in value as well, because Pittsburgh is still, it's an old city, but parts of it is still developing. And, just the general trend of the housing market, if it's a good house in good condition, it's going to go up as well, the value of the house. So I'm hoping that over the next, decade or so, maybe 15 years, I could flip that house for, a good amount of cash, and then buy more property either in Canada or somewhere down south in the US, and just to start investing in rental properties.
Yeah.
That's one plan I have for that, making my money work for me. Another thing I'm looking at, my buddy in the army, I actually met him when I came on recruiting. His name is Murray. He introduced me to this. It's an agency called PHP Agency. It stands for People Helping People.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they sell life insurance contracts. And
Really?
yeah.
Wait a minute. We got to stop for a second. PHP Agency?
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
Do you know who runs it?
Patrick
Bet David. Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck, dude. I follow him very closely. I don't know if you follow him at all on YouTube. He has a channel called Valuetainment.
Okay.
And then he also has a podcast, which I've been watching, and he's been doing a lot in the past like three months or whatever. But yeah, that's crazy because like I've never actually looked into the PHP side of it. It seems like he is life insurance, and I'll let you describe there because I don't have any idea what that side of it is. But like he also is an entrepreneur, and he puts a lot of that stuff out there. So that's really interesting.
So essentially, what that is they sell life insurance contracts, and so it sounds like a pyramid scheme. It might kind of be somewhat related to a pyramid scheme, but they label it multi-level marketing, where someone that has the proper certifications or whatever can recruit people to kind of work for them, or work, I would say, under them and help them get started. So my buddy's going through that process right now, where one of his buddies is actually doing it, and he's helping him get started. So the way it works is you start out, you get all your licenses for being able to sell life insurance in whatever state you want to, and they start out at 30% commission for the policies you sell, and you have the potential of just moving up from there. So if you get a certain amount of people onto the program, your commission goes up to 50%, and then after a certain amount of time, or after a certain amount of sales, or a certain amount of
definitely sounds like a pyramid scheme. But yeah, I didn't know that. But regardless, though, it seems like there's a little bit more sustenance to it than just like a regular
than a regular pyramid scheme. So you're not essentially a pyramid scheme. The person at the top is making money off of everyone at the bottom, right? This isn't like that. You're not just funneling money to the top. It's more so you're building your own empire. I guess that's how it was described to me.
It's almost like franchising in like almost like in a real estate. I think kind of like I mean, a lot of those sales industries are kind of the same thing. I came from the real estate market, and like I worked for a Remax franchise, but like ultimately I never wanted to dabble into that, just because like I wanted to make things that were mine, like the brand, and be the brand, and then potentially be the, I guess you're being the person at the top at that point or whatever. But the point is though, I watch a lot of his content, and it seems like he knows what the hell he's doing. So if he started all that and stuff like that, it doesn't seem shady. It seems like a really good incentive to bring more people into that.
That's why he calls it people helping people. It's essentially like someone's not putting you in the program and just letting you go. They kind of mentor you and they guide you up until you're at that level where you can start bringing people in as well, and building people up. And then you just start working your way up from there. You pretty much are franchising and kind of owning your own portion of the business, and they're like a life insurance. I don't know exactly what they're not. They don't write the contracts and everything. They kind of look at all the other groups.
Maybe they're like they kind of collaborate on that?
Like a broker almost.
Yeah, broker. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's yeah, they are actually brokers. So I mean, the guy that's helping my boy get started, he knows him from basic training as well, and they've been friends for a few years, actually over 10 years because he's been in the army for a while.
Yeah.
But that guy, he's been doing this for, he said, I think 3 years, him and his wife, and they're actually on their way to making six figures, within 3 years, which is not a long period of time if you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 3 years left on my contract, so
Yep.
if I could get into something like that, they are expanding into Canada and Mexico as well. So I think that'll be a good opportunity, especially in Toronto, because it's such a dense area with a lot of different backgrounds in there. And the whole purpose of the agency is to get more diversity in these fields so that, for example, I'm Pakistani, so I could go talk to the South Asia community about this stuff and let them know how to benefit them. The second thing that they told me about that PHP stuff was that they have certain contracts, and one of the contracts that they kind of advertise the most is one that helps them invest their money without the risk of losing it, which I found really interesting. But the way he explained it to me is they purchase bonds and call options, and they just kind of, the money grows as the market goes up, and as the market crashes, it stabilizes. And so they showed me some charts and stuff. It made sense. When you look at it visually, it made sense. Now seeing it being practically applied, I would have to see that to see how it goes. But I feel like something like that could help me invest my money, grow my money. And if I actually get on the program and become an agent or whatever, when I move to Canada or something and start building my own empire, I could put in hard work and get rich like that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that was an option. I didn't know that you knew of PBD and stuff like that. Like, do you follow him at all? Or
I don't follow him. I found out about him through my buddy telling me about PHP Agency.
Yeah.
So the PHP Agency actually has YouTube videos that I've seen. Seen a couple of them. So he's spoken a couple of them, but I haven't actually followed his personal channels and stuff.
Interesting though. Yeah. I think he was in the army as well. I'm almost positive. I don't know if it was.
I think he was.
I don't know if it was the U.S. Army.
Yeah, he was, because he came from Iran to the U.S., joined the army, did a few years. I think he said he did 8 or something, and then got out and then started his own brand and stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting, just the whole dynamic there, and like you said,
a lot of the people that go into the program, they're also vets and stuff like that too. So the guy that's helping my buddy, like I said, he met him at basic training. He's a vet as well.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's crazy. Yeah, you'll have to tell me much more about that if you end up going down that route, because that's pretty crazy that somebody could like kind of build that though, like from the ground up. Like I don't know the whole backstory. Like I said, on that side, I kind of more look at the entrepreneurial content that he puts out on like the valuetainment and everything like that. But yeah, that's weird. It's coincidence. I didn't know that was a potential plan there. That's dope. I'm kind of interested in your experience so far with the whole purchasing a home thing, because that's something that I'm going to have to do at some point. And actually, before we say that, you were 19 when you came back from Kuwait.
Yeah.
I don't think we said it yet. How old are you now?
21.
21. So you're well on your way. Nice. So, but yeah, so the house thing.
Yeah. So I kind of, again, this is going to go back to Murray, my boy from the army. He bought a house in Washington because he moved out there. He got assigned out there, and he bought a nice house, an expensive house. And I'm like, he's only one rank higher than me, one pay grade higher than me. I'm like, yo, if he's able to do that and like live a comfortable life, he has a Beamer as well and everything. So I'm like, if he's able to do all that, like, shit, I could too.
Right.
So I decided to start small here. I'm not spending like $400,000 on a house here. That's gonna be for my own house. It's gonna be a nice big house. But the house I bought here, it's around 170K, and it's a nice, decent sized house. It's about 1,400 square feet, I think. This one was, and it's got 1.72 acre lot. Is it 1.27? Something like that. It's got a decent lot with it. It's got a nice backyard and everything, stone patio. But it was a few houses before I found this one. I was trying to find a house near work so that I wouldn't be late every morning or something like that. Especially with the winter coming around. I was looking for a house near work, but I work in Robinson, and near work is either in Coriopolis, Moon, Carnegie, those type of areas, either expensive or ghetto. Yeah. So then I'm like, well, where I'm living right now is not a bad area. I live in Brookline, around that area. It's kind of middle class, suburban, whatever. So I started looking there. I looked at Brentwood, found a couple of houses there. So I think I looked at a total of 6 or 7 houses before I came to a decision of the one I wanted. And then I had a real estate agent. I think you know him, Steve Gregory.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was on
So
the podcast.
was he on the podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's the agent I'm working with. Yeah, it's pretty cool how we network with other people that we know.
Yeah, it's
but,
dope, man.
Yeah, so I'm working with him. He helped me put in an offer on the house. Offer got accepted, and we're just kind of going through the process, kind of figuring out more information on loans and whatnot, what I need to do to get approved and everything. I've already got my pre-approval. Just a few more steps I got to take to get completely approved. But yeah, we got the ball rolling on that. The inspection for the house was actually just today. He told me that the inspector didn't find anything too alarming, and he's gonna have a report and send it to him within the next couple of days here.
Nice.
So he told me typically it takes 45 days to close on a house. I'm going a little bit longer than that just because I'm taking care of a few, I guess, hiccups that we're having in the process, and that's on my end because I'm on a mortgage with my dad on the house that they have in Florida as well.
Yeah.
So just kind of clearing those hiccups up, and it's a fairly easy process, to be honest. You could break it down in a few simple steps. Find a house you like, find an agent for sure, get an offer or pitch an offer, negotiate, accept that offer, get approved on your loan, and close. You can pretty much do it in 5 steps. Now each of those has a few sub steps in it, obviously, but it's not hard. If you know what you want or a good idea of what you want, the area you want it in, just go on Zillow, go online, and start making a list of houses you want to check out, and get in touch with an agent and have them kind of tour, have you see the homes and tour all the homes and stuff.
Gotcha. And you said that you have to be in Pittsburgh, or you have to be in the Army for 3 more years?
Yeah.
So does that mean in Pittsburgh? Did we talk about that?
Yeah. So my 3 years are going to be in Pittsburgh as a recruiter. I'm in the Robinson recruiting office. So if you want to join the Army, come see me.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm in Pittsburgh for the next 3 years. After that, I can get reassigned. I can extend my contract. I could re-enlist, or I can get out. And if I re-enlist, they'll assign me anywhere else in the country.
Yep.
I could extend for like a year to stay in Pittsburgh. There's a possibility of that. It's not guaranteed, but I'm in Pittsburgh for at least 3 years, and the Army's giving me housing allowance, so might as well use that towards owning a home.
Definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's dope, man. I have a segue here that is kind of it's definitely pertinent to everything we're talking about, and I wanna kind of pitch this question to you with some context. So like you've been all around the world in a sense, like you've been to a bunch of different places now, and you enjoy going overseas and seeing different cultures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You've lived in several places, New York, Canada, Pittsburgh. What, like, from your experience in the Army and the experience in just like living in all these different places, I talked to Burhan about this, like sort of like the idea of just like culture and religion and all of these types of things. So, I mean, we can kind of start with religion. Like, what kind of impact does that have on you? Like, does that, like when you meet new people, or when you got in the Army and stuff like that, was there ever any like BS or anything that you've gotten like on that regard?
So now, before I start this off, none of the BS I've gotten in the Army represents the Army as an organization. Right. It represents the individuals that give me that BS. Absolutely. All right. So I do have a few stories of racism. Yeah. In the Army, the one that sticks out most is that when I was in AIT, I was still brand new soldier. I was a private, a PFC probably, so that's an E3. And on Thanksgiving, all the higher ups kind of serve you lunch and stuff. So you have a lot of higher ups in the cafeteria and stuff like that. I was in the cafeteria, and I was gonna go to the bathroom to wash my hands, and like right beside the bathroom there was a table with people on it, and there was a colonel standing up by that table, kind of blocking off the entrance to the bathroom. So I kind of stood behind him for a second, see if he would move to the side. He had his back turned to me. So when I realized he didn't notice me and his table wasn't pointing me out, I was like, "Excuse me, sir, I'm just trying to get by here." And he kind of turns around and he goes like, "Oh, my bad." And then when the higher up talks to you, gotta show them the proper respect. Yeah. It's part of the military, part of the discipline and everything. So he started talking to me. He's like, "Oh, my bad. Hey, how you doing, private?" He sees my name, Ahmed. I'm like, "Doing well, sir. How about yourself?" He's like, "Oh, I'm doing good too. You enjoying your meal and stuff?" I'm like, "I actually didn't eat yet. I'm gonna go wash my hands." And then he kind of looks at me. He's like, "Ahmed, I'm like, yeah. He's like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Pittsburgh, sir.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Pittsburgh. So you a Steelers fan? I'm like, actually, I don't watch football, sir. He's like, you don't watch football? I'm like, nah. And football is huge in America. It's
Yeah.
pretty big in Canada too, but not
Yeah.
as big as it is here. So I told him, I'm like, yeah, I actually grew up in Canada, sir. I'm a hockey fan. He's like, Canada? So are you a Canadian citizen? I'm like, no, sir. I born in New York, actually.
Yeah.
And he's like, your family moves around a lot. You making bombs or anything?
Oh my
I
God.
looked at him. I'm like, no, sir.
What the fuck?
And then conversation kind of went sideways from there. A couple more questions were asked, and then he kind of went back to, "Wow, are you guys terrorists? Are you trying to infiltrate the army?"
What the fuck?
And I'm like, "No, sir." And there's a guy in civilian clothes. Not sure if he was a civilian or if he was in the army or not, but he was kind of standing beside us, and he goes like, "Oh no," and he walked away. So I was like, being a private talking to a colonel was kind of scary. I didn't know how to handle that situation.
Yeah.
So I kind of just like no sirred it off and went to the bathroom, washed my hands, and I had one of my buddies with me because you got to use a buddy system when you're in training. And he kind of laughed at first, and then he realized like that rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, that was kind of fucked up." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was." And I just didn't know how to handle it because it was like such a high rank. So I went back, like once we went back to the barracks after I talked to my platoon sergeant about it, and my platoon sergeant was Hispanic, so he kind of told me, he's like, "Look, man, did you get his name?" I'm like, "I didn't get his name. He was just bald. He was old. He was a colonel. There's not that many colonels on base here." He's like, "It's Thanksgiving, man. These colonels come from all over, especially when they're coming to a training base because Fort Jackson's a huge training base." So he was pretty much kind of sat me down and he's like, "Look, man, you're going to experience racism anywhere. You're going to experience it in the army. You're going to experience it in the country. You're going to experience it wherever you go." He's like, "You got to be able to be resilient about it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sorry this happened to you." And he wasn't trying to like brush it off or anything. He was just trying to get me to understand that there's programs in place in the army to report that kind of stuff. But if I don't have the proper information, my report won't do much for me. And he's like, being a trainee, trying to report a colonel, it won't work out in my favor at the end. So he told me kind of if I need to talk to somebody about it, I could, but just have thick skin and just kind of be an example for future soldiers, when I become a leader.
Right.
So that's kind of something I've pushed. Two things I don't tolerate within my ranks or anytime I'm around anyone is racism and anything that's alluding to sexual harassment, sexual assault. So any of that stuff I don't tolerate. I'll stop it when I see it. Now, that's not to say that I definitely don't make, sexual harassment, sexual assault jokes at all. That's terrible. Yeah. But you got to know your audience, right?
Right.
I watch stand-up comedy. A lot of that stuff, involves jokes related to race. It's not necessarily racist jokes, but it's jokes related to race. So I'll make jokes like that and stuff, but I'm not going to discriminate against anyone because of their race or their gender or their sexual orientation, anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the story that sticks out most when you ask me about has any of that stuff kind of impacted me. Aside from that, though, my unit, my old unit, my current unit, anyone I've worked with has been really, really accommodating. So once they find out you're Muslim, they make sure they're not going to give you anything that has pork in it. They make sure that if there's no meals that you could eat, they'll at least give you a vegan option because, we could eat vegetables and stuff. Yeah. They want to make sure you're accommodated on that end. Before Ramadan started last year, even though Ramadan was during COVID, so I was at home anyways the whole time. But before COVID even had an outbreak and everything, he was my boss, and then it was the station commander, deputy station commander. They actually asked me, they're like, "Yeah, we know Ramadan is coming up, so if you're gonna fast, just let us know, and we can make the proper accommodations for you so that you're not working, ridiculous hours and everything." So they were really accommodating on that end as well. When I was overseas, we were in a Muslim country, so people were just generally curious about, how the, Muslim culture works, even though it's different. We're like in different countries. Yeah. So, Kuwait was more Arab. I'm from Pakistan, so it's a little not so Arab. It's not an Arab country, so the cultures are slightly different, but the general idea is still the same. So they would ask me questions and stuff like that just to get more information. So I was always more than willing to answer any questions that I had the answers to. I actually made friends like that too. So like I said, I don't discriminate against race, sexual orientation, all that stuff. Another thing I don't do is I don't judge people based off politics. So I won't say my political opinion on here, but I have friends of the opposite side of the spectrum, not too far opposite, but, they didn't necessarily vote for the same people that I would have voted for, but we're really good friends. We're in the army together. And we actually keep in touch like daily almost. He was actually one of my soldiers as well, so we keep in touch daily. He gives me updates about how his career is going and if he needs any help with anything. And sometimes I even reach out to him for help because he's a knowledgeable person. But he's one guy that he had a misconception about what Muslims were really like, and his whole view changed when he went to Kuwait. He was actually on a detail that took care of off-post housing, so they had apartments off base that either higher ups or civilian contracts were assigned. So he was actually walking down the street and walking by a school, and the kids were out for recess, and like Kuwaiti kids, Arabs, right? And they see him, and he's a white guy, so they kind of ran up to the gate, and they're like, "Oh, I'm Riki," and they're kind of doing hearts at him like that.
Yeah.
And like from that point on, he came back to the barracks and started talking to me about it. We were close over there too, so he's like, "Man, this happened today. That was dope, man."
Yeah.
Like these kids are just regular kids, like kids in America, except they just speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, it's what people are like." And then
Yeah.
he just started asking me more questions about being Muslim and then how being Muslim in America was like. And then he's like, "Do you feel more comfortable in a Muslim country?" And I'm like, "Dude, I kind of feel the same. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up, in Canada, America, so I was kind of ingrained in that society. And then my family's, Muslim, so growing up in that culture, I'm actually glad I did because I know where my background, my roots come from. So it's like I could have my own identity because of it.
Yep, definitely. Do you still practice like Muslim as a religion like completely? I know there's a lot of like almost like rules that you would categorize for somebody like me. Like it's just they're completely different. Like you mentioned pork and stuff like that.
So I'd say I'm not the ideal Muslim.
Yeah.
So don't use me as an example. Like, oh, Muslim guy, Izaz Ahmed on the field by prophets. Don't use me as the example. I'm not an ideal Muslim at all. Like you're supposed to pray 5 times a day and stuff like that. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
But like eating pork, drinking alcohol, like I don't do any of that stuff. So I'd say I follow like the main rules. But when it comes into like the nitty gritty stuff of it, I'm not great at that.
I gotcha. No, I mean I understand. I think too. I mean, like we've talked about, you moved different places, you become a member of the military, you've done all these other things and stuff like that, and I think that at a certain point you kind of assimilate. And actually, I think I talked to Burhan about this when he was on. Like, we don't have to go super deep into it, but like religion in general, whether it's like I was raised Catholic, Muslim, whatever it is, like I kind of feel like as you grow and as you mature, there are certain things that it's like, maybe this doesn't make a lot of sense, and you kind of just like almost write in your own rule in a sense. Like it's like unless you're going to be completely devout and you're going to be like a religious leader or something like that, it's like just be a good person.
That's how I see it, man.
Yeah.
Just I personally believe in God. Yeah. I believe in a higher being and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of religion, most religions kind of were enacted so long ago when the world was completely different.
Yeah.
And as times go by, the world changes, but the rules didn't necessarily change. And I'm not looking to get into a religious argument with anybody about anything, but I feel like if you're just following the main idea, taking care of people, just not being an asshole in general, then you'll be all right. Like, all dogs go to heaven. I'm a dog.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I feel that's a good perspective, and that's a good way to lead your life. I'd fully agree with that. Maybe some people won't, but that's whatever.
We can fight.
Yeah, we're fine. Well, dude, I greatly appreciate this. This has been eye opening from the side of like what this is our deepest talk. You and I personally, as far as like Army and everything like that, everything you have going on. I'm happy to hear. I already knew this prior to coming in here, but I'm happy that you have a solid head on your shoulders at just the young age of
rock hard.
Yeah, just the young age of 21, as far as like from not spending all the money and stuff like that and everything that we've talked about here. So that is all dope. I want to make sure that we get you out of here to get your haircut. Yeah. So let me hit you with these last 3 questions.
All right, go for it.
So normally I pose these as like a way to kind of tie everything together, and you'll see kind of how it all gets tied together here. So the first one is, it's something big that's in my life, and I've had a lot of good people come through the podcast here on different episodes and give the answer to this question. I think it really shows like how you in this case have gotten to where you are. So the first question is, who are your 3 biggest influences, would you say, throughout your life? And they could be individual people. They could be people you know, people you don't know, groups, or, like whatever.
Kanye West, Kim Jong-un, Donald Trump. No, I'm playing.
Okay, that was interesting. That was an interesting 3 there.
3 biggest influencers. All right, so top one's definitely my mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know our life story.
Yep,
So
yep.
my mom's been there my whole life, obviously. I just want to make her proud.
Yep.
That's my biggest goal in life, aside from being happy myself. So definitely a lot of the things I do to make sure that it's not something that'll ultimately hurt her.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom would be the first one. Second and third, that's tough. I mean, myself is definitely one.
Yeah.
So I'd count that as number 2. I want to make myself happy. I tell this to my siblings, my cousins, everyone younger than me, that, man, don't do anything that you don't want to do just to please your parents. Like, do what makes you happy. So, like, I'd say a small example of that would be, like, I ride a motorcycle. My parents didn't want me riding a motorcycle, but it makes me happy and I find it fun.
Right.
So I got my license and got a motorcycle. Ultimately, it doesn't hurt my mom. Makes me happy. Now, should something happen, that would hurt my mom, but I try to be as careful as I can be with that. Or, like, getting a cat. My parents didn't want me getting a cat, but I wanted a cat, so I got a cat. Small things like that. So myself would be the second one. Third, that's a tough one. Third influencer, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a person. It would be more of, like, my future and where I want my life going. That kind of impacts a lot of my decisions. For example, like buying the house, I want to build equity, kind of secure my future in that sense. So the top 3 influences: my mom, myself, and my future. Definitely want to make sure that I'm not screwing myself over in the long run. So I want to make sure that, in the future, I have my life straight. When I have my own family, when I get married, when I have kids, they're all taken care of. So that's top 3 things for me.
Feel that. Yep. I think B also said your mom as well. So yeah. I just saw her the other day.
You did,
in town.
She actually just left today. We dropped her off this morning at the airport.
Such a nice lady.
She'll be back.
Nice. Okay. Second question is, what is your best, like, advice that you can give people? Like, just like somebody watching that has heard your story and everything like that. Like, your best life advice. It could be, in a specific category or whatever, but just overall best.
Best life advice. Life advice is do whatever makes you happy. Shit, even if it's not immediately beneficial to you. For example, day trading specifically wasn't immediately beneficial to me, but it made me happy and I was curious to learn. So I took the L anyways and just kept grinding. And I'm slowly getting better at it. So definitely do whatever makes you happy, but at the same time, while you're doing that, stay within reasonable limits. So I'll go back to my motorcycle, for example. Riding a motorcycle, not a bad thing. It's a reasonable thing to do. A lot of people do it. Now, don't try to be a stunt rider, BMX type of guy on the highway that'll, like, risk your life, Be reasonable with it. So do whatever makes you happy, but be reasonable.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm all about it, man. I agree. Okay, last thing is not really a question, more of like a red carpet rollout type thing. So, obviously throughout your life here so far, you're specifically the thing that I can think of right now is you're a recruiter, right? So the stage is yours right now to kind of like tell any of our audience or anything like that. If you want to plug your Instagram, or you want to plug you have a recruiter page. I think you have a recruiter page. I have a recruiter anything page. Like that, I can put links in the description, anything like that, even contact info. Just like if you want to say like, hey, if you're looking for,
anyone that has thought about the military or not, if you're a senior in high school, if you're in college and, struggling to pay for it, or even if you're graduating and just looking at doing something with your life, we've got over 150 different jobs in the Army in over 15 different career fields. It's not all combat, I promise you that. I've been in 5 years myself, never been in combat. So if you want to learn about how the Army can actually make a difference in your life, reach out to me. I got Facebook, which we'll plug. I got Instagram. And I'll even send you a picture of my business card so you can throw that at the end of the video too or something.
Yeah, I'll put it all in. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely come reach out, talk to me, and just let me give you all the information and lay out a path for you which makes sense to help you reach your goals. And if you like it, we can process. If not, have a great day. I don't care. I already have the Army.
Sweet. There we go. Yeah. So like I said, links and everything in the description, show notes and all that. So hopefully we get some recruits out of this. That'd be dope.
Hopefully, yeah.
That'd be dope.
I'll give you like a free army mug or a water bottle or something.
Nice, dude. Well, man, this has been great. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming through.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. We'll do it again. We'll do it again sometime.
3 years down the line when I'm about to go to Canada.
Down the line, yeah. Maybe we'll do one from Canada.
Oh,
I'm supposed to go with the boys.
Oh, okay.
so maybe we'll do that. But yeah, dude. Again, best of luck. This has been great. I know that I have no doubts that your future is gonna be very bright here.
Yeah.
Like I said, you got a strong head on your shoulders, and nothing but the best.
Hopefully, yeah. Same to you, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Fueled by Progress with my guest Izaz Ahmed. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next one.